Good morning, everybody. All right, let's get this going. So let's start with the indexes this morning. Hope everybody had a good weekend. And the biggest thing that I think that people need to be aware of is just this what you're dealing with right here. I'm going to take these off for a sec. And I just want to show this, and I think it's super, super important. Let's get rid of that. We should be back to bonding next week. I got to change my entire, going to change like my entire workout routine and what time I go and everything. So, but it should work out. And then we should, by Monday, we should be ready to just get back to 8:15 on this pretty religiously. So if we look at how we're set up here and this kind of range that we're in and that low, December 18th level, which has really been a battleground, which we're trying to hold here. And we really haven't gone anywhere in the S&P, since this December 18th date, which is when he said I cut rates and I don't know why. What's really troubling to me is him going into the FOMC this week. But more importantly, if we just look at this, and I'm going to spend a little more time on it today, but if we just look at this, you have this divergence here. It's not great. It's not great. And people are like, well, it doesn't mean anything. No, it's a thing that you must watch. It's no different than watching it here and saying, hey, you have a problem. You have a divergence. You want to pay attention to it. And then you either pay attention to it or you don't. Maybe pay attention to them. This one was pretty telling, I think. It is what it is. But to me, they're pretty telling. And it doesn't always mean that you're going to fall apart, but it does mean that you're probably going to be a little bit weaker. And maybe just trade sideways and just chop it up a little bit. And you have a lot of uncertainty out there right now. But to me, when I look at stuff like this, it's definitely something I want to pay attention to, because even here, when you see it, you can't unsee it. And then all of a sudden you get this big drop down on the Fed, and everyone's like, well, there was, you couldn't have told that was going to happen. And just FYI, I mean, it's like Groundhog Day, guys. Here we are here, and you're here, and you just saw what happened on the Fed. So like, it's not exact, but I don't know what he's going to say. And he's in a really tough spot because continuing claims are much higher. They're much higher than they're supposed to be right now, like much higher. So Trump's going to say, are you supposed to cut rates? I don't know how he's supposed to cut rates when you don't even know what the tariffs are. I just don't, as much as I'm not a huge fan, I don't know how he's supposed to be effective if you don't know what tariffs are. Like you're just guessing on what inflation is going to do. And I think it's a real problem. So, I think it's a real problem. So other than that, we'll see how this goes, but I'm going to give you a couple levels that I think are super important. The breakdown here on Thursday at 8:30, the inability for us to rally through that on Friday at 12:30, that's your level that you have to get through. And the question is, do you do that today, or do you reject that again? And of course, as always, I don't have an answer to that, but this is where you fell apart. And, with the attack, you tried to rally up. And so far, that's what happened Sunday night. It's been nothing but buying, quite frankly. So is it something that you want to pay attention to? Yeah, 100%. You have the 20-year bond auction today. No one's going to be telling you to pay attention to that. Pay attention to that. That's a big deal. So this is really how I see your major levels. I'm not going to get into all the minutia, but that's really how I see. That's how I see the really big levels there, and go from there. But let me just drop this in here while I'm thinking about it, and I should be good. Now, in regards to, and I would mark this level off. Anytime you get some kind of news like war, or you always mark them off. You can see just completely rejected right there. Sometimes a duck's just a duck. So you don't have to get too crazy. And you're going to have the same 4 hour here. I might as well show this because I think it's very important. And it's not telling you that, oh, we're definitely going to fall apart. But when you have such stuff like this where you're rising up and then the magnitude of the move is telling you that we're going lower, if you understand that RSI is calculating the magnitude of the move, it's actually charting the directional movement of what you're doing. So when people are like, oh, I don't use that, understand that this is all calculated by what's going on in every single one of these bars. Like, is the directional movement up or is it down? Like, once you get that, to not look at this is kind of silly because it's telling you what's going on inside of all this. I'd strongly suggest that people, look at it as a guide. You don't have to use it. It doesn't have to be a be all end all. I do want to point out that if you look here on December 18th, you can see the same exact pattern where you make the lower low, high, and then we just fell apart. So can something like that happen again? Yeah, we're at Itchy's favorite level. So it 100% could happen again. The only thing that could get us to rally, in my opinion, hard would be if he came out and said, I'm cutting rates. If they cut rates, market should rock on that because he's being preemptive, which is something that he's not known for. And I don't foresee that happening. I just really don't. I know that they're leaning on him to cut, but the way he's looking at it is, and I'll tell you how I think if I'm him, how he's looking at it. He's got a year left, not even before May. So he's going to do whatever he thinks is right. And he's not going to answer any of these questions. He's just going to he's not going to play the game. He doesn't need to. He's like, I'm in, I'm done by the 26th. He knows he's out. Whoever comes in, and I think that this is where you can make a lot, you can make a lot off of this stuff, off the home builders, but whoever comes in is going to be super, super dovish, in my opinion. I don't know why that keeps, looks like I did that twice. Hold on one second. They're going to be super dovish, and that's a year from now. So it is what it is, but they're going to be super dovish. I would watch those levels, and let me see what else I got here that I need to pay attention to. Let's do it this way too, because you guys always ask about this. You crazy kids trading your zero dated options. So do you gap fill and then reject? Maybe. I'm not going to do a pre and post because if you're looking at pre and post, just go and look at what happened on the futures market and just overlay it. It's so simple. You'd have to get through this. I don't say it. I think you're going to get back to here possibly. And then you just got to watch the 20-year today. You got to be super, super careful of that. Maybe it goes well, maybe the 20-year goes well. And then we have a completely different kind of environment. I don't know that. I'm not really sure that you're going to hold in here. I don't really view that as the same area it once was, that 600. You might because people are looking at it, but I just don't view it that way. So I think you're kind of in limbo up here, and it's more about that close. And maybe you could make the argument I think it's more about Thursday's close, but I think you could make the argument that maybe you want to watch that too. It's more of a range, like if you got up in there, but you're wedged in here. So I think you're more looking at putting shorts on into this than you are buying the rally. I can't think of anything worse than buying the rally into a 20-year bond market auction into a Fed where the guy's got to explain, what's going on with, interest rates, why we're watching continuing claims do what it's doing, why the consumer's getting weak, and I'm not doing anything about it. Because he is in a bind. I mean, again, if I'm him, you just got rid of inflation. And the question then becomes, I would just mark that Thursday close, same thing. And you can mark the high as well, but I don't think the high has as much oomph as some of these other levels that are in here personally. I just don't see it that way. So I don't really like that either. Let's start here and see what else we see. Well, that's definitely an issue. Where does it stop though? Let's come back a little further. There you go. You can see bonk, 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 and then it flips right there. And then that becomes a battleground. Hits, rejects, battleground, hits, hits, hits. So that's your level. So when you're looking at it that way, you're back at the top of this range. And the real issue here is, what's your impetus to go higher? Now, there's a couple really interesting things going on out there, but I don't know. Let's go look at the video for a second too, because you guys are going to ask me about it. I think you're in limbo here, and it's not an area that I would really do anything with. There's your level right there, and here's your other level. When I say it, remember the Paris Air Show is going on right now, and you can't get through 105, 445. So why do anything? To me, it's just why would I do anything here? Like I don't think there's anything to do. You're in the middle of a chart. Like there's nothing going on here. So I don't see it that way. Give me 1 second. All right. So let's get to some questions and see where we're at here. What's up, John? Yeah, it's interesting because I'm watching Crude collapse. And it's not a little collapse, it's a big collapse. So, and you see it from Sunday night. It's just absolutely collapsing. So names like Exxon, and this was my point in buying this stuff, everyone gets involved in it and they buy these rallies, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's over. There's all kinds of rumors out there on oil. There's all kinds of rumors like, that Khomeini got hit on an attack, or, Iran got bombs through. There's all kinds of stuff. What I tend to do in these kinds of environments is not listen to any of it until it's confirmed and look at what the market's doing. Right now, this is what the market's doing, because we don't have access to that kind of information. Like, and unless it comes confirmed on a wire, like a wire, not some guy on Twitter, but like an actual wire. Like, until we see that, I tend to not really pay attention to that kind of nonsense, because you just don't know. So maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But what I would say about it is oil's plummeting. So oil's either plummeting because this is over already, or because there's going to be a ton of oil on the market. And if that's the case, then you'd have to go and say, well, what about the tankers? Well, the tankers will go nuts, because there's not like there's that many tankers. So what usually happens with the tankers is when crude drops, the tankers tend to do better because they're more in demand, because they circle the earth with the oil until the price goes back up. So they start getting in demand, and people pay premiums for it actually when oil's cheaper. It's kind of weird. It takes a while to actually get used to that kind of thought process, because you'd think it'd be the exact opposite. But you have a lot going on here with these charts. And the way that I always looked at them was, all right, well, let's just watch how this is playing out. You can all see that, like, by Wednesday, people were already buying these things. And they're doing well. Like, they're doing great with them. But, the question is, like, now what do you do? I don't know that you have to chase them. I would look for pullbacks and see if you get stabilization. They would be the two I would look at. In regards to Zim, which you brought up, it is what it is. I mean, it's just one of those companies that's going to bonk around. And if things are good, then it's going to go higher. If things are bad, then, you're going lower. It's not really rocket science. Like, I wouldn't put more past it than that. When you look at something like that. But do I want to get into all the FROs and all that? I mean, you can. If I was going to play it, the ones that I like to play really are TNK and STNG. And I'm not really sure why, because they're not the most active like FRO is. But they seem to be the ones that I gravitate towards. But you are seeing them set up here. And it does look like, you have some issues here with Iran. In my opinion, hold on 1 second. Let me do it this way. Go back to this, and then I'll do it. I'll look at that in a moment. But to me, you're plummeting on oil. So, like USO, that kind of stuff, which is obviously US oil fund. This kind of stuff that like rallied like this, it probably plummets back down. This kind of stuff really, to me, is probably a short. Obviously, they're thinking that oil is going to absolutely plummet. So it's definitely something to me where I would look at this and go, well, that's a pretty easy, it's a pretty easy short to put on and just kind of leave on and just let it do its thing. If you don't trade futures, not everybody wants to trade futures. So nothing will age you faster. But stuff like that. I actually think there's one out there that's like, I think there's a US oil ETF that's like 2X oil or something. I think there's something like that out there. Let me see if I think there is. I thought there was. Maybe there isn't. I thought there was. I thought there was something like that. I mean, the thing to do the best is just trade oil, but something like that probably just implodes, comes all the way back down. So, but I do think that like crude is telling you something here pretty cleanly, is it's just imploding. The other thing is if crude implodes and we had a lot of cheap oil for whatever reason, whatever that reason might be, S&P will go higher because then earnings will go up because oil is cheaper and it's a huge component. And we'll go from there. But yeah, the defensive names are super interesting. You're kind of hitting all the buttons today. That's why I'm staying with you. So, do you want like, okay, like, all right, so you're up. Like, okay. Like, why would I buy these today? Because you're up. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I'd be on the other side of them, quite frankly. Like, whenever this stuff like bids up and everyone's like, oh, I got to get in, I want to get out. Because then I'm like, who's left? When the dust settles, unless it's going to be like a long process. And this is telling you very clearly that this is not going to be a long process. I mean, you've given it almost the entire move back. So it's telling you very clearly that this is not going to be a long process. So, if that implodes and if Iran comes out and does something, then it's going to be pretty big, in my opinion. But we'll see how this goes. But there's, this is plummeting. That doesn't mean that we're going to escalate, and maybe that's the thing that gets the S&P up and gets it going. But I don't need to be that. Like, what are you going to do? Chase PLTR today? A week ago, you could have bought all you wanted at 120, but 140, I have to buy it. Like, okay, that's pointless to me. You're just waiting to get whipped, So I don't know. I don't like that game. What's up, Jay? Yep. So the circle to me, I saw this on Friday, and I saw the move on Friday, and I saw that close on Friday, and this is really what you want if you own it. Now, the question really is, what do you do with it? God knows where these things can go, but you're holding your IPO VWAP. What I was hoping for is some kind of break. You didn't really get that at all. So if I go here on just a very simple plain chart, I always mark off the IPO VWAPs, and you can just see how you rode that in here Tuesday, Wednesday, and then of course you rode it again right here. And then right at the close on Thursday, you flipped it. But Friday, you come in and you have your up, down, gap fill kind of situation. You see it right here. And then that's it. You're from 109 or 113 down, retest, and then there's your bar. And then it just rips. And it just goes. And, from there, that, it's $1.50 entry to make about, 40. Like, it's crazy. But it's just been a machine, absolute machine. You need these things to set up to really try to even think about getting in at this point. Otherwise, you're just throwing a dart against the board. Go and take a look at OUST. A lot of people have been playing this one. I mean, you can. I just think you're rejected. So I try to get over and I reject it. So why do I want to be in there? Yeah, I'm short Boeing here. I'm shocked that this thing's up, like shocked that it's up. So I don't know, man. Maybe it's the Paris show and that's what's got it. But, Heathrow had another issue, or Heathrow had an issue as well. A plane had to land. Like, why in God's name would you, in a million years, like, why in God's name would you be an institutional investor buying this thing right now? And like, you're like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, how is that not a big deal? So it doesn't seem like everyone's just like, oh, it's no big deal. So maybe because of the orders, I don't know, but it just seems like it should be a much bigger deal than bidding up when, you're having another issue with a plane. Now, is it your issue or somebody else's issue? I have an answer. I don't know the answer to that. I truly don't. So, but I'm shorted. I think it should 100% drop, but what do I know? It's not working. It's not falling apart. It should be. Yeah, I think the HWM is super interesting. I don't know that I need to do it here. You're holding, but do I want to get involved here? I don't know. I'm not feeling it. And I'm not feeling it because of the volume. I didn't really have a lot of buyers stepping in there on that. I was looking at that. INCY. You're bidding up. I don't know the news this morning. This chart looks great. I love when these start spreading like that, like longer term. That's like super important to me if I'm in there long term. PLTR we covered. I'm not going to cover it again. The problem with CEG to me is that it's not doing what it should be doing. So now I have a declining 12. So I like the name. I just don't know why you're not doing what you should be doing. So whenever I see that, I kind of put the brakes on. VST looks like it's about ready to rip everyone's face off, but CEG is just sitting there. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying here, and I'm kind of surprised that it's acting that way. So I really don't have much more to say about it. If I have a declining 12-day moving average and I can't really stay above that, and I keep getting good news and I keep getting sellers, it just means somebody knows more than me. That's kind of how I look at it. The ACHR. So I'm becoming more like long-term that this is going to be something that I didn't think it was going to be. Pardon me. I think that this is going to be something. I don't know if today's the day I have to do it. I have this huge drop. God knows what the news is now that made it drop. But what you want to do is just watch those lows. And as long as you're not taking out those lows, you're probably okay. And then you just try to find another way into the name. But yeah, I am very interested in this space now. I do think that this is going to come to fruition way more than I thought it was. It seems like, you almost have to make a decision. I don't know. I think Archer's tied more into the government. So maybe that's the one. Seems to trade a little bit more active. So that's the one that I'd be looking at. What's up, Ed? What's up, Troy? I'm not really interested in those. It's just like everyone's going to be like, defend. To me, I'm not saying I would short this. I wouldn't, but this is telling us something. And I'm not sure that it's connected. But like crude oil, like that's a top, man. Like when you do this, that's barring news, that's a top. So then you go, well, what about defend? What wouldn't those names come in? Maybe not, because maybe he's going to do something like, oh, good, this will stay here. That's fine. Maybe not, because he's still going to do his golden dome, right? That golden dome's coming. Let's go from there. Good morning from Tokyo. Good morning from Miami. Yep, CW. So a lot of these names like this, I was going through these charts, they're just grinders. And I don't see any reason for them to stop. I was thinking about this a lot. Like, am I going to get something like that on CW? I don't know, maybe. But you're starting to get them. They seem to be getting a little tired. I was looking at Honeywell too. Like you're starting to get that tired look, right? So do we start to develop that here as well? I'm not really crazy about buying that thing that up like that. I will say that it didn't take any money at all. Like you had all this volume and it hardly took any money to keep it going. So you probably still keep getting buyers. EMLC. I don't know that one. Let's take a look at that. Local currency bond. That's interesting. The 20-year is going to tell us a lot today, that bond auction. Yeah, I don't think they're going to go crazy. I think this is done already. And I think the bond market's already telling you it's done. Like, it's not like you have to understand escalation like this, like something's up. It's not normal to see this in the bond market. Like, you don't have escalation and then have crude oil plummet 8%. So we're missing something. Or maybe rumors are true. There's so many rumors floating around. So, and if that's the case, oil's going to get significantly cheaper, and then we'll say, I don't really want to get into rumors because you never know if it's true or not true. So, APLD, everyone loves these names. I think this is the next one that, NVIDIA bought. Like, NVIDIA takes stakes in companies, guys, and then just throws them away. It's like, it's not a big deal to them. They did it with Serve, and everyone's like, oh, what do you mean? You're going to be the next great big thing. And they're like, yeah, we don't own that anymore. And that was the end of it. So they can do it again. I'd be super careful with that stuff, until you see them embed it and use the product. URGN. I would need to know more about why you're doing what you're doing. Clearly, you had a drug come out that crushed. I wouldn't touch that. Anything that has a nasty bar like that, I wouldn't touch. I'd have to know, like, I'd have to know it so well. No. I guess if you knew this one, let me go back, Holly. URGN. URGN. Yep. Yay. So if I knew that one, maybe. Yeah. Well, what are you going to do when it doubles? So, like, that sounds like an awful strategy, David. It's usually how people go broke. Shorting is like the fastest way to go broke because you guys are looking for things to be rational. Market's not rational. It's based on fear and greed. It's really that simple. Outcome and expectations. Yeah, I think that's a great level for NVIDIA to short it. I really do. Like, as someone that's long it, like, it's a great level to actually put that short on, and go from there. It really is like a great level. Well, that's what I'm saying. We could just go to 300. And what are you going to say? It's super duper overpriced? Like, you'll get slaughtered. Well, that can't happen. Okay. So it can happen. I mean, remember, like, people don't remember, like, GameStop, Tilray. They think it won't happen to them. They're special. They're not special. It'll happen to you. Nobody's special. So I always watch that stuff. Always be careful of that. That's going to be the big event, Bob. Yeah, I should really do one on that. I would think gold goes up. I'm just reading the comments. If there's anything we have to cover. As far as, like, gush that you guys are, like, all giddy about, right? Like, oil and gas exploration production is actually dropping. It's actually dropping. So usually what happens with this thing, they end in tiers the same way as, like, the bearish ones do. Like, if you look at this, like, people always are freaked out by this because, like, the bear one is up, but it just hit new lows. So I would be on the other side of this. I'd be buying drip and I'd be shorting gush. Like, and people look at these charts like, well, why? Because it's more about the news. Even if they go sideways, you make money. Like, I'm short this. I know I'm actually long the stock, but I'm short this. And people are like, oh, you're crazy. QBTX is going to go up. Those ETFs, you need to understand how these 2X ETFs work. Like, they're almost, I'm surprised that I'm actually surprised they're allowed to run the way that they are. I'll leave it at that because people don't read the prospectus and understand that they actually own call options. So every time this thing goes up, it's a call. I think I'm short at what? Where did I start this thing at? 102. So, but the stock in and of itself could actually go higher and this thing could just bonk around. So you really need to understand this stuff. You think it's just going to go up because oil is going to go up. It's not. It can for a little bit. You really have to understand them. The peak VWAP. You know, oh, is that what they did? They did an offering at 10. Is that what got them down? That's interesting. That's interesting. Is that what they did? An offer at 10? So they did the offer at 10 and now it's holding. I don't know. Might it just explode to the upside? Ads and status in WhatsApp updates tab. So they're going to monetize WhatsApp. Well, maybe that's good. I don't know. I don't have a clue. Who knows? We'll find out. Yeah, that could stop it. I mean, that would just, as long as it holds, it tells you what's going on. If they priced it at 10, that's good. Because as long as you hold it, you're fine. And it looks like you're holding it. So it means you were oversubscribed probably. Lily, I own. How is it? Yeah, I actually like Lily here. I own it. I think it's great. I bought it this day and it's just been killing it ever since. I thought we might get stopped out here when it forms this doji and it was red. So, but now I don't see a reason to do anything with it. It makes perfect sense to buy those kinds of names. So in my opinion, Taiwan semis, like, to me, it's just a no-brainer if you have time, but you have to have the time to just buy it and leave it alone. Like, none of it works without them. The Tempest is setting up here, and I'm not really sure why, but that's definitely setting up. You can say it. You actually have like a wonky cup and handle. I got to jump, guys. I got to hop in the room. Trade to win today.